It's hard trying to be so open with development process, especially since I'm working a lot slower than I used to. Yeah, I used to get a lot done in really short bursts, and when I was in a really productive phase, I'd feel like there's no reason I can't just do this all the time, and do the work of some months in a couple of weeks, and then of course not be able to maintain that pace and have a phase of still working, but sort of slower filling in the gaps. It's just really rough. I haven't figured out yet how to work that productively as a parent. So obviously the most important thing is to do a good job for these two, because this is their childhood. I wouldn't want to just separate myself off and be working the same kind of hours I used to. Even if I could, but I don't have a space to really do that anyway. So yeah, I'm working it out, and I'm actually making progress, and it feels more like the filling in gaps kind of work, but that's okay because I have a core design already. Yeah, I sort of wish that in trying to do this open, talking about the process development, I was able to do my more typical kind of development, to be talking about that on the way, to be talking about something that I have figured out how to do rather than something that is new and challenging, but here's where we are. Yeah, so I've talked a bit about what I'm trying to do with the Cinquepash sequel, and yeah, it's nice. It's nice that then people talk about it on the Discord, and people are interested in responding. Yeah, basically I'm grateful for that. It's a challenge to me that I worry that people might get the wrong idea, and I'm trying to resist the urge to just respond to everything, because I need my energy to figure out what I'm actually doing rather than to convince other people that I know what I'm doing. But there's a couple of points I wanted to talk about. So I talked about, you can stay asleep. Sorry, I'll try and, I talked about having a sort of tracking of what's been excluded from a wand, and that's a concept I'm trying out. some people responded excited about that as a positive development, and some people responded that they think it's perfect already, and like, it's not perfect. Or so when I'm making a game, like, there's decisions that you make near the start, and at some point you've made enough decisions and there's not really any left to make, and it just, the rest follows from those, and it just sort of crystallizes out by what's necessary given the constraints you've set up. And you know, there's always some freedom even towards the end, but yeah. So Syncopash, there's a lot of directions you could go with ones with multiple abilities which can be partially identified, and one of the decisions I made early on was when a spell triggers to reveal what that spell was. Now, consider what the game would be like if I'd gone the other way on that and just, you know, rather than putting little icons by the wands, leave them blank and you can trigger them and see what they do, and like completely do a deduction game. So if you zapped a wand at an enemy and it killed the enemy, you wouldn't know if it killed that enemy because of what type of enemy it was, or what the enemy's position was, or the time of day, or anything else. Like, and then you need to do further applications of the wand to gradually do science on it and pin down what it does. And I think that would be a pretty neat game. That's a game I could have made. It's a game I could still make. And the choice to, if it's killed because of being a frog, reveal that's a reason, that's a particular spell, cuts out a lot of interesting possibilities. And that's fine. And yeah, so the choice to mark which spells have been eliminated as well, I feel like as a similar sort of restriction, it eliminates some possible spells from being included in the game, and that's okay. It shapes how it plays in a particular way, and that's great. And if I make that decision, then the whole thing crystallizes in a certain way, and I get a particular game. Yeah, I'm in two minds. Part of me is just like, remake the game exactly, but with graphics that will sell better, and like hopefully then it'll reach more people and I'll get some more money. Part of me is just really interested in going back on the particular critical decision points and seeing what would happen if I flipped that the other way. Either way is a completely valid starting point for the design, and then something else would crystallize. So yeah, if I went back to the start and said, we won't reveal what spells are on a wand, you have to completely deduce it. What game does that make? That makes, so spells with a unique visible effect aren't that interesting, like sleep. Like, if it happens that you you know 100% what the spell is from seeing it happen once, then it's not using that mystery to any effect. You may as well just reveal the icon. So the interesting types of spells are to include are ones that have several neighbouring spells that it could equally well be. So having different conditions becomes more interesting than having different effects. And it would need to be a slightly longer game, maybe even a quite a bit longer game, because you don't get as much information from seeing the wand trigger once. You have to do more, you have to have more applications of it to get more information to deduce based on. So yeah, you see, like, changing that decision, you can do design on it, you get directions towards a game that I'm sure will be interesting, but it just changes a lot. You have to have the player has to have more hit points or something to that effect. It has to be less risky, because for a longer period you have less information. And that's not the game I'm making today. But like, thinking through it, it's actually an interesting project, and I almost certainly won't do this, but like, it would be a potential project to make 5 different single pass games and explore, based on some different fundamental axioms, what different games crystallize out. But yeah, at the moment I just need to do one, and yeah, there's always more potential projects that you can think of than you have time to do, but it's an interesting concept to play with. I think I mentioned in an earlier video that I had 2 principles I'd found that were helping the project go well. The principle that I can take anything exactly from the game before, which frees me from like trying to be forced creativity. Just like, if something works, I can do that. And yeah, you see, like, there was a game, Seven Scrolls, that was like very closely inspired by Single Pass, and it's like interesting to see how he walks that line of like taking as many ideas from the game as is constructive to make something new out of, but trying to not take too much, because like he doesn't want to like just rip it off. Like, yeah. And I'm inclined to try and do the same thing, but like, the original is my game. I can rip it off if I want. Like, and it's not even, yeah, it's not bad if I just do exactly the same things, because it's still, hopefully, if I get other things right, reaching a bigger audience. So that's relaxing, to just know that I can take an existing solution off my shelf and use it. And the other principle I'm following is that I don't have to use anything, even if it's good. Like, everything in the original works pretty well. I could just repeat it, but I don't have to. It's already there. Like if there's a cool mechanic in that has interesting depth and stuff, but has already been explored in that, well, maybe that's enough. Like that game's not going away. And a new principle I've had to add into the mix is that even a new idea, if it's good, I don't have to use it, because yeah, I'm experimenting with more possible spells that can go on at once, and there's some cool ideas that I've had, and I want to use them, but some of the ideas just directly conflict with other ones. For example, I won't tell you what it was, but I had a spell that's like more dependent on what position it is in the wand. And that conflicts with the idea of having the positions not matter, to have the bucket of what you haven't eliminated yet be a simpler display, rather than having to show what you've eliminated from each position. Like those are both cool directions, and yeah, exploring some of those kind of positional things, they're really nice, and I think some of the expert players would love them and really want to get their teeth into them, but they're also way more complicated. So like I'm kind of like half serious about like maybe I could make multiple games. I can put the super high complexity ideas into one project. But yeah, for now, it's enough to just have the open possibility that yes, this isn't the last project. Whether it's another single pass game or something else, those ideas might find their home somewhere else. I don't have to squeeze them into this one, because they work directly against making it the more accessible is not quite the word, but the version that gets a wider reach. Like, yeah, I'm not like 100% optimizing for reach, because that would mean making quite a different game, but I want to preserve the heart of the game but have it reach more people, and ideas that like really push up the complexity conflict with that, even if they're really neat ideas that I know some of you do want to play with. So I'll put those in a different bucket and figure out what to do with them. Maybe maybe I can fit a basic and an advanced version in the same game, like unlocking stuff. I don't know. So I was looking back at some of the comment threads on the original to try and understand what would increase its reach. Just like yeah, I've talked about this before, but I'll just get it out. Like, some of the people just really like explicitly said, I don't like that it's in a human language that is foreign to me. I would buy it if it was just runes, but I'm not gonna. Like, I just get such a bad feeling reading some of those posts. Just like, it really makes me want to not. Oh, it's just a bird. There was a dog coming past here before, so I was like keeping an eye out. But that's just a bird hopping along. Yeah. Yeah, so it's just not good for me to look at those posts, because then I'm just like, no, despite this xenophobic person, I will just not, and like, just let go of that. Like, their issues are not my problem, and it's fine if they play my game or not, like, whatever. And that's not the main thing I was thinking about. What was interesting to look back on was really several different people said that the artifact, they really wished the artifacts were cheaper to get. And what was interesting about it was some people, even some like respectable game design people, said the artifacts are really what's the interesting part of the game, and like they're not. They're just like literally what every game has. Like you level up, you get some abilities, they get stronger as you level them up. It's just like literally the same thing that every other game has. It's not an interesting system like the ones which are novel. It's just like, I realised I needed some progression. Yeah, what, like originally a gem was a recharge treasure, and that was too much because it could recharge a wand that makes treasure. It's like, oh, maybe if you collect 5 of them, then it recharges, and then that was just like too hard to control. Maybe if you get 5 of them, you get a recharge you can use at a time of your choice, and like that was okay. But then I turned it into a once per game recharge, which is fine. Yeah, so the fact that people would say this is a really interesting part of the game makes me think that I've kind of tuned it pretty good, actually. Because the thing that's making it seem interesting is the difficulty of getting to it. It's not the mechanic itself, because it's just you get an ability that levels up. Like, it's, I was reading Brandon Sanderson book, the Stormlight Archives, book 4, like fantasy epic, and he's got chapters from point of view of lots of different characters, and I got to a chapter and it was by Shah Anat, and I was like, wow, this is so exciting, there's a Shah Anat chapter. I really like Shah Anat chapters. And then I looked at myself and I was like, it's exactly the same thing. Like, this chapter is exciting because there's only 1 or 2 in each book from the point of view of this character. It's not because the character is interesting. Like, the character is obviously much less developed than the main viewpoint characters because there's less space to develop them in. Yeah, like, rarity makes things exciting, even if what they actually are is not that exciting. So if I put those right at the start, like, You wouldn't think that, oh, this is the meat of the game. Yeah, definitely one comment which is valid is that the upgrades are hard to figure out because they only come so deep in the game that you get them quite rarely, quite infrequently, and people were attributing this to it being in Portuguese, which is again an example of just people pinning things on the most salient feature, because even if it was just all like clearly explained in English, the same thing would happen. Like, you only get this after if you're 20 games into a streak and you have to choose which one, and like, even if you understand the words saying what the basic idea of it is, even if I like write out full implementation details, which like I can do it, but people don't read it. Like, there's a funny thing in games that like you can literally put in text on the screen all the details of how something works, and people will get to that screen and nod and then go past it, and then like complain 2 minutes later that they don't know something that's said. It's like, and it's just not. It's not an effective way to get into people's minds information about the game. It's just not. I'm just as bad. Like, I'll just skip, and then expect to be able to figure it out by plunking about. Yeah, so even if it was fully described in English what each upgrade does, like the only way to get a sense of the dynamics of how they interact and what's going to be a good choice and a good combination is by trying it out in play. Yeah, so maybe having it in a language that you don't know makes it slightly worse, but that's not the fundamental problem there. So what I'm thinking about with those, this is a big change, but so the artifacts themselves, I'm fine with that being a committed choice, because it's not. I played the original the other day and I got 2 artifacts in the first game. It's just like, that's rare, but it's possible. You can. There's a small number and you can learn what they all are pretty quickly. But, I'm thinking of having the upgrades be modifiable. Like, you can take back and change your build, like maybe between runs. Yeah, you get the. I'm still everything's up in there, but for example, you get 5 artifacts as before, and then every 5 gems gives you an upgrade point, and between runs you can buy or sell, allocate the points into upgrades on your artifacts however you like. Maybe you can only reallocate on the same artifact. Maybe between them it doesn't really. The latter would probably be richer, but yeah. So that would get past the problem of having to play 20 games before you know if a particular build is going to work. It'll let you try things out, and if you decide that's not the one you want, like still for like optimal play, you'd want to know everything from the start, but that it also gives me the possibility that they could have different costs, like maybe some of the more significant ones cost 2 or 3 upgrade points. Like there's possibilities. So as it stands, I could still completely throw out any system, and I'd say there's like maybe a 9% chance that I will even throw out the wands and just like at the end of this have a completely new game, which would be like fine and great, but yeah, we'll see. But yeah, so editing your artifact build as you go, like it's the thing I like about how it's implemented already is that the decisions you have to make are small. You're only ever presented with a binary choice of what to upgrade, but I mean that's cute, but like people can handle like I like doing these kinds of taking potential complexity and restricting it down and having a small choice that still holds the complexity, but yeah, like it's totally right that that's an obstruction to learning that part of the game, and yeah, that binary choice upgrade thing would be great for a smaller game where that was the focus. So you know, those people are in a sense right that that's an interesting part of the game, that like there is a potential game that could be made out of it where instead of the wands being the main thing, you're rapidly upgrading spells with binary choices, but I mean that's a different game. The other reason I think people think that is just because like they're used to thinking about builds and games, and it's much easier to think about your artifact build than your wand build, which almost makes me wonder if the artifacts are a distraction. I should take them out, because the wand development is really the interesting part. So it's been interesting watching some people stream the game across the years and how they have different approaches and what abilities they test for, and to some extent what abilities you test for are what abilities you have. If you prioritize every game checking for a particular one, then you're not more likely to have that, but you're more likely to verify whether you have it in the cases that you do, and therefore have reliable access to use it. So the strategy you take in testing your wands determines not what abilities you have, but what abilities you know you have, and therefore what abilities you are able to intelligently use. So that's really the build in the game, like what priority you place on knowing particular spells. And yeah, I wonder if having there be a more explicit build draws so much attention away from that people aren't noticing it, not noticing that they're making choices what to have by choosing what to test. So yeah. Okay. I will. Yeah, I had some friends visiting last month, which was great. But like after that, we were all tired, and yeah, so it was a period of time where I couldn't get much work done because we were like doing stuff together, and then a period of time after that where I couldn't get much work done because I was just exhausted, and it's like it's so hard to balance like the social time, which is like not something I get enough of these days, and it's good for me, with like like I keep getting woken up at like 7 a.m. and not managing to catch up on sleep, and it's just so so next week I'm planning to try and do something else, actually. Just a smaller piece of work that will have something to show for it more quickly, because this like big project is sprawling and can take however much time I'm willing to spend exploring the possibility space. So yeah, hopefully next week I'll have something interesting to show for. Okay. Thanks for listening.